Good evening. What is in progress? And welcome to the regular meeting of the Weaverville Town Council on February 28th, 2022. We will be having this evening 2 public hearings before the beginning of the regular business meeting, and following those, we'll have the regular business meeting. I would like to just remind everyone that tonight we are exercising democracy. We are having a free exchange of ideas where votes will be taken by elected officials. This is not the case that's happening in Ukraine, where China is trying to take away countries. So please remember that tonight as we exercise the rights of democracy. So you all have to do it before you had a chance to review in advance. Are there any, is there a motion to approve the agenda or are there any adjustments to it?
I'd like a motion to approve it.
Sir, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion about that? All in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries. And just, Councilman Nagel is via Zoom tonight, so you'll see him you can see him on the screen. So first, we'll start the first public hearing, which is on the voluntary annexation of the project over on Ollie Weaver Road. Do we have a sign-up sheet of people who chose to speak?
Mr. Mayor, I'll go ahead and introduce the item and then I'll grab our sign-up sheet. There may be some other folks that arrived. But the reason we're here this evening is Weaverville LLC, Gregory and Sharon Schultz, as the owner of several properties located between Ollie Weaver Road, Garrison Branch Road, and US Highway 2570, has submitted a voluntary annexation petition for approximately 25 acres located behind CVS, Southern Concrete, and North Point Baptist Church. Property is contiguous to the property limits of the town of Weaverville. The annexation petition references an intent to develop a 244-unit multifamily apartment complex, which is consistent with the zoning map amendment that has also been submitted requesting an initial zoning of R12, which is subject to a separate hearing tonight. Tonight's public hearing on the annexation has been advertised in accordance with North Carolina law. As a part of the public hearing, staff will provide any written comments that were timely received. Those were emailed out to everyone a few hours ago. Regarding the proposed annexation, and all for staff level comments be available to answer any questions of town council. And when our line clears here, I'll write the list.
Thank you, Mr. Eller. So we would like to open up the open hearing regarding the voluntary annexation of this property. Just a moment. And we encourage everyone to let us know your thoughts, but also to be respectful as you do so. Please, when you approach the microphone, please state your name and your address. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, do you have a time limit per person?
Yes, point that out. Yes, each individual speaker can speak for 3 minutes, and the town manager has a little dinging device to keep us on schedule for that. And we will try to keep the total time to a reasonable time to. So. Suzanne Devine.
Hello, how are you this evening? I'm a resident of 6 Lakeway Circle and the Reedy Creek Golf Community. And I'm also on the Planning and Zoning Board, but I'm here tonight speaking as a private citizen. And on the Planning and Zoning Board, I was the one person that voted no on absolutely everything because I thought the process really just stunk. It was pretty clear to me that staff was ramrodding the whole issue through that meeting. Despite the fact that the Planning and Zoning Board had a duty to understand better so that we could look at the reasonableness of the measure under the land use regulations, section 21505D. I have been a member of the Planning and Zoning Board since November of 2020. I found it to be a very positive experience until that night. I found at that meeting that staff resisted any probing questions. At that meeting, two of the regular members were absent, including Chairman Burge. And so as a result, we had two brand new alternate members that were asked to be voting members that night. And when I made the motion asking for a delay so that these new members who were not at all familiar with the activities of the Planning and Zoning Board would have more time to consider it, the response was, what exactly do you need to know that we haven't presented? And that's an impossible question because all of the information had just been given to us in advance of that meeting, very short time frame, with no historical knowledge of what was going on. So since that meeting, I have taken a look at various issues around this, and I have a few questions that I would have asked if I had known to ask them on December 7th. The first one is, why were we not just given a heads up with something this major that can have such a major impact on the community? To get that in one meeting and make a decision is not something you yourself have been able to do. So what was the Planning and Zoning Board supposed to do that? When I asked the developer that evening whether, what would be the difference of whether Weaverville annexed it and did it versus Buncombe County, all I was told was, the whole group was told that under Buncombe County, the buildings could be taller. But having looked into it, it appears that the density, if it was under Buncombe County, the density would have to be decreased. There would be more community benefits that would be required. There'd be more benefits in the way of affordable housing units. And so none of that was discussed. And I've seen, statements and statements that were made that night that if the town of Weaverville doesn't go through with this, we'll have no control over the land. Well, it just seems to me that a superior proposal, I'm out of time, I take it. All right, we'll come back in the next one and finish up with the zoning one. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure about this name correct here. Danny Gimlins from 33 Norwich Drive.
Excuse me, I just signed in, I didn't realize that was the speaker. I apologize.
Okay.
And the next person would be.
Virginia, be the next one, same with you, okay.
Thank you.
Karen Holt.
Hi, my name is Karen Tanner Holt. I live at 15 Acre Avenue, which is within about a mile and a half of this proposed building. I'm actually a commercial interior designer and I've worked in construction for 20 years. So I have a little bit of a background from that perspective. But tonight I'm speaking as the perspective of a fairly new Weaverville resident. I've lived here for 3 years now. I escaped Atlanta and all of the traffic that it brought with it. And one of my major concerns is that this annexation will bring even more traffic. We've been seeing a lot of traffic within that region, which we cross through that the 25 and Monticello intersection every single day. And with the building of the new apartment complexes across the way, there's a lot of added impact from just traffic that we've been dealing with. And there's 2 more apartment complexes already under construction. And we have extreme concerns about yet another one and how that's going to impact quality of life. I'm very adamant about offering different types of prices of affordable accommodation and housing, but at the same time, I don't think it needs to be conglomerated all on one intersection. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Wayne Holt. Okay. Very good. S. Jolie. And we move on.
Takes me a little while to get anywhere these days. my name is Shirley Jolie, and I live at number 2 Brilliant Sunset Lane in Weaverville. First of all, I just want to float some facts here. As a former marketer, I know how things can spin out, and sometimes facts are really important to float by people so that they can visually understand what implications might result with this type of a development. There are already 4 high-density developments in this congested area. I didn't get information on the 4th one. However, I do have information about Northridge Commons, 53 3-bedroom townhomes. And as you hear these facts, picture the number of people and the number of cars and the number of services that might connect with those numbers of residences. Hawthorne and Weaverville, 168 units. Holston, 238 units. And these represent various numbers of units with floor plans going from 1 bedroom to 3 bedroom. Okay, this then means that there are 459 units within very close proximity, 459 units. And that doesn't even include the 4th one that I didn't get facts on, nor does it include the 244/302 units that are proposed, because I saw paperwork that reflected 244 and 302 units with the new development was not revised in the paperwork that I read. So this translates into very high water usage. It translates into a potential of upwards of 688 additional cars, and that's based on a national average when transportation consultants for this type of an area, they use 1.5 vehicles per household. 688 additional cars. I don't know if you ever go to CVS in Monticello, but it is almost impossible to get in and out of that driveway currently because of congestion with the gas station, congestion on Monticello Road, and just congestion in general. Also, this could mean hundreds and hundreds of new children in our schools. I love kids. I don't have kids, I have cats. But I love kids. It's just that we have to be realistic in what the additional residences in the community this size, 11 buildings, really? Are we really going to go for that in Weaverville? More tax dollars will go into developing this concentrated area and perhaps swing resources from those of us who live in more outlying areas. Also, I have one question. In your paperwork, it reflects that the club or CLUP plan that it's based on, you've done your figures statistically on the 2020 census. And I want to know if the 3 or 4 new developments that are contiguous with this proposed development have been folded into those figures where you cite that this 11 unit, 244 unit property would increase housing for multi-dwelling from 32% to 39%.
Thank you very much. So the CLUP stands for Comprehensive Land Use Plan, which was developed a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And I don't know the answer to your question, Jim, do you?
Those numbers have all been incorporated.
It's on page 11 of the documents that you circulated.
He answered.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
All of the figures that you referenced have been incorporated in those numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else? You found it okay, thank you.
I thought it was a order for all.
It kind of is. Kelly Sewell? Okay. Thank you. James Hino?
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is James Heidel. I live at 120 Sam's Road, Weaverville, North Carolina. However, that address does not fall within town limits. Good, take this off. I am here today to ask that council postpone a decision tonight and do not call this to a vote. If this is called to a vote, I strongly urge council members to vote no and deny annexation, rezoning, and utility access. I ask for the following reasons. Just last month, on January 24th, you passed the resolution concerning the town's water system. In this resolution, town council has agreed to approach water allocation requests pertaining to properties outside of the town's limits very conservatively until a decision is made on the expansion of the water treatment plant and while regional water discussions are occurring. While very conservatively is subject to interpretation, this development should clearly fall outside of a very conservative approach for water allocation. By voting yes to this request, I feel you would be contradicting the resolution you agreed to 30 days ago. Also included in the water resolution was the action that the mayor and staff were directed to provide regular updates to town council on the regional water conversation and the water supply resiliency improvements. On page 35 of your agenda packet, in the preliminary staff reports water section, several critical pieces of information are not included, and I feel this assessment is incomplete. An informed decision requires more information, and it is necessary for the mayor and town staff to collect and present council with a more holistic regional water review prior to making this determination. I would also like to call to your attention the planning board's letter in the agenda packet, page 26. In this letter, Mr. Burge wrote, there was more discussion and debate during this meeting, and unanimous votes were not achieved. He also wrote, as the planning board struggled to gain consensus on this matter, it is recommended that town council renew its conversation about what balanced residential development means and how it should be used in the planning board's work in determining plan consistency. The planning board had difficulty with interpretation and asked for clarification and direction from council in determining plan consistency. High-density residential development represents over 80% of all new residential growth door for door in the last few years. Do you feel that falls within the definition of balanced residential development? These issues raised by planning board should be evaluated and relevant plans updated prior to approval of this annexation. Public sentiment is highly opposed to this development. I hope you all have had time to read and consider the 100+ comments that were submitted through your public comment portals. It is not reasonable for them to be read out loud in this meeting, which is another reason we should postpone a decision until you've had a chance to take the time to read our community's concerns. Decisions like this one have the potential to change the course of our greater community for decades. Diligence is incomplete. Please do not vote, and if you must, vote no. Thank you.
Ann Mathis?
Sorry, I have a hearing deficit.
Oh, sorry.
I have owned a farm at 70 Weaverville Road for 57 years. I bought it in 1965, and we've raised 2 boys there. My husband has passed away. Many of you probably knew him at Ilo Food Stores as district manager. I enjoy all the wildlife that comes through my farm. It joins most all of the property that's under discussion right now. It also joins Horizon Hills. And mine is only a small 15 3/4 acre farm, but it's still a farm. Without farms, there will be no food. And without the trees, there will be no breath for us to breathe, no air for us to breathe. Clean air, not that from exhaust pipes. And yes, we'll wear masks just to survive, not having to do with COVID-19. It is sad to see all the farms disappearing. The farm that is now up for sale, that I guess Reese Asher still owns, it has been a farm ever since I had a farm in 1965, and that was Cooper's farm, Ray Cooper. And then it was sold to some development company, and then Reese Asher bought it. I assume he still owns it. Anyway, I have 2 miniature horses. Used to raise Arabians, but they got too big for me. I love my little horses. I love seeing the deer. I had 6 this morning at my deer feeder. Have 2 flocks of turkeys, squirrels, rabbits. Now I'm going to have noise, traffic, and who knows what else. But I sure hate to see our forest and farms destroyed. Without them, there won't be people soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Thoreau?
I have to wear these on, but I can't read when I'm waiting. Doug Thoreau, 73 Hillcrest Drive. What I'm gonna speak to on this subject on the annexation, I agree with pretty much everything that I heard up to this point, first of all, but that isn't what I was gonna start out with, but after hearing that, I felt I should say that. What I'm gonna say is really old news. But it needs to be heard by more people. And that's the way this whole thing got started. That application, and you all know this, was incorrect. We were told that, I was told after I spoke, that I knew that the GIS people made mistakes on acreages. That wasn't the point, because then somebody got up and said, well, we have a survey and we know it's correct. Well, then why wasn't the survey put with the application? Because in that application, there was only 19 acres that showed by those property numbers, not 24 plus. And right then and there, what I suggested was resubmit the application properly. The dates were also changed on it. Not initialed, but they were changed. I was a notary for 15 years. You don't just change dates. I don't care how they got there, where they came from, but if you change it, you initial it at the very least. And somebody else got up to speak to that very same subject about initialing those changes. Now, I know we can't change that. I'm only here to speak to that because this could have been, if lack of better words, it could have been nipped right there. At least delayed to be studied more, but it was pushed through. Shouldn't have been. Thank you.
Aaron Campbell?
Good evening. Thank you all for wanting to serve our community. I imagine most of you have the best of the community at heart, and I appreciate that. It's a lot of hard work. I live at, I owned a couple of acres on Hare Cove since early 1980s. I'm a registered nurse, and I've been a paramedic in this area in the past. When Twisted Laurel was the fire station, I spent nights there as a paramedic. May have saved some of them. I love this community, and I appreciate several mentioning quality of life. I know I used to enjoy going to Gatlinburg a long time ago. And they're boxed in by mountains. We don't have that issue here. And there is absolutely no reason for us to overpopulate. Years ago, there was a mayor that some of you may remember named Bette. And she Stroud has a bench in her honor in the little park behind here. I don't know if you all have taken advantage of that little park, but the bench is there because she was a mayor with vision. She's passed recently. Terrific, little lady, soft-spoken, smart. And she is almost individually responsible for having our precious little Main Street because she stood up to corporations, to the chambers and all the rest of the power people that were just up for greed and self. And she stood up to them, and she's almost personally responsible for Lowe's and Walmart and all that stuff being on the other side of 1923. So I challenge you all as leaders to maybe look her up and challenge yourself to be that kind of leader. Maybe some of you all are, and thank you. My challenge with the new development is that people haven't even moved in there yet over in the mess at Monticello Road. And when we get the cars and everything else there and the traffic and the usage of all of the public facilities here, and try to find parking on Main Street and the library and everything like that, it's up to us. Weaverville, I feel, is at a tipping point right now. Y'all are in power, and thank you all for listening to the community. I know years ago, in the early 80s, I went with many people. I used to go out and always see a friend and person, people I knew. That didn't happen, it's grown so much in Nashville. But we went to chamber and DOT meetings because they were wanting to extend 1920 I-26 north. And
Yeah, I'm going to ask you to wrap your remarks.
sorry?
I'm going to ask you to wrap your remarks up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, very good. So my suggestion is that wait and let the developments that are already almost built, let those people move in, give it 2 years, and think about progress versus greed, and who are we going to give the power to? The people that know and love this community, are we going to protect it and just encourage common sense development? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the mention about Ukrainian extended family that are Ukrainian. I appreciate that.
Standing cross.
Good evening. My name is Stan Cross. I live at 19 Holly Weaver Road, across the valley from the proposed annexation. And I'm still thinking through the pros and cons of the annexation request. But one thing that struck me, as it did the gentleman who spoke earlier, was in the last planning board meeting, bringing up this sort of notion of balanced residential development and recognizing that that's a moving target. That in a community that's being rapidly developed and experiencing rapid growth, how we define that balanced residential development really provides the context in which we think about reasonableness and consistency. And so I question whether or not we have a common understanding of what that is. And I question it also in the context of the fact that this development is just another one of the type that's going to be coming. Given that the county has a shortage in housing and is committed to dealing with that issue, and given that South Asheville is pretty much full, and when we look at where unencumbered property is still in the county, this area is prime. And so in thinking about this annexation, I think it's important to think about the next and the next and the next, and think about how that creates that vision of a self-sustaining, vibrant, kind of mixed community that Weaverville set out to achieve, right? And so I think it's important to think about it in that broader context as you're deciding what to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cross, everything you said is true. Luciana Barbosa? Get that wrong?
Just sign
Pardon me?
Just sign.
Oh, okay, sorry. Mariana Bella?
Me too, signing in.
Okay. The Showalters? Just signing in? I'm sorry, I can't see that. Okay, all right, thank you. Jeremy Diner? Okay, Mark starts with the H, but I can't make out the rest of your name.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, there's two names here, Tom starts with a G, looks like, last name? Okay. And there's one person left, and they signed with a pen that ran out of ink. It looks like Jacqueline, maybe? No?
Maybe. I think I wrote my name on that. My name's Lauren.
Lauren, I'm sorry, your pen ran out of ink, but anyway, Lauren, you want to speak?
Hi, my name's Lauren. I live on 47 Sam's Road, right outside the town. And I wanted to voice my concerns and state my opposition to the rezoning and annexation request. And I am so proud to live in a community like this where so many people care. I really echo a lot of the thoughtful concerns that were raised, but there are three things that I wanted to talk about. They are the impact to our town, the vision that you all as leaders have for Weaverville, and also our water. So when I think about impact, when I've looked over some of the documents that have been shared, there are some things that are missing for me, like, are there stop signs? Are there going to be lights, considerations for curbs? What is the benefit of bringing a development like this to Weaverville? It's not very clear to me that it's there, but the things that are going to be negative impacts are pretty clear. Are we ready for this? Are schools ready for this? Is the traffic ready for this? I think I would ask for a traffic study certainly to be done, not even just for this development request, but moving into my feedback on the vision. When we think about what we want Weaverville to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, the decisions we're making right now, I think it was well stated that we're at a tipping point. The decisions we're making right now are going to be hugely impactful for the fabric of our community. And so I guess I would ask you guys to think about what that looks like instead of treating certainly all the developer asks that are going to come up as kind of the one-off requests as what do we want? And I think you all have the luxury to make those decisions and you have the power to create that vision and move us towards it. And the last thing I wanted to touch on was water. I was in attendance at the January 24th meeting. You can see my t-shirt, Save Ivy River. And I think it's really important that we look at our water situation from a conservative place. And I would ask if you maybe just delay even this request until we feel comfortable with that regional water plan, with being able to serve the community as is. Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren, I'm sorry, but what is your last name?
Hurry.
Thank you. Thank you all. So we need to, so we've heard from the side to speak at this public hearing. Is there a motion to adjourn this public hearing? So is there a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That public hearing is now closed. We have a second public hearing, which addresses the zoning request for the same project we've been talking about. I recognize that these two issues are pretty intertwined and blended, so I understand that somewhat it seems that they're not separate, but we have to actually make separate decisions here. James Eller, our town planner, you have anything to say about this project or this item?
You've hit upon it, Mr. Mayor, happy accident 168 means that we have to have separate public hearings for the annexation and the zoning of the property. All the variables are the same, we're still in the same place at the same time.
Is there a separate sign-up sheet for this public hearing? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, in your packet, you will find a statement from the planning board, which did consider this. So there is a letter that found that R12 zoning was consistent with the comprehensive land use plan and reasonable.
Mr. Thoreau,
Yes.
you signed up to speak again on regard to zoning?
Doug Thoreau, 73 Hillcrest Drive. Now, this is going to be short, and I understand very clearly why the separate hearings and everything, and that's great. The question I have in regard to it, and I think I know the answer, but it doesn't show that way on the agenda. There will be 2 separate votes for each one of these. I mean, a vote for each one. It will, because under discussion and action, you've got them combined. And it makes it look like there's going to be one vote for both. If you've got a public hearing on something, you need to have a vote on it individually, I believe. And that's the only question I had in regard to the zoning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine, can you respond to that?
What town council in the past has done with these, because the zoning is so tied to the annexation petition request, you have considered the zoning first. And the ordinance that you have, should you wish to consider an ordinance on the annexation, it does have a paragraph that talks about the zoning on that. So it typically has been done as one action. We do have to hold 2 public hearings. There are 2 separate items, but you can do both in one ordinance, and that's what has been proposed if you wish to go down that road.
Thank you very much. Suzanne Devane?
Thank you. This will be very brief. Ms. Jackson did point out that, again, the Planning and Zoning Board said it was consistent with the CLUP and that it was reasonable. But again, I cannot stress to you enough how much we were told that we had to make a decision that night when I specifically asked why it could not be postponed for another month. I was told the deal could fall apart. So why are we rushing this for a developer? I was told, we could have actually considered it at the January meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board, which was canceled because we had nothing to consider. So I don't understand the rush and why it was met with such resistance at the behest of a developer. And it is, as people have stated, we are at a tipping point. The Planning and Zoning Board spent all of last year redoing the 160D ordinance for the town, which has standards for rezoning. And the council has to assess detriments and benefits and whether the action is in the public interest. And before, the apartments across the highway not completed, the apartments that are going up on Merriman, they barely started. So even now with the traffic study, it would be premature. And of course, NCDOT would have to do that. So it's too much, too fast. And it's why everyone is running around just because the developer wants it now. I mean, the land is valuable, someone will want it in 2 years, once we know what the impacts are of the existing multifamily that's going in, so what's the rush? And I guess finally I have to ask this, because I'm from Chicago, and I don't mean to insult anyone, but things are done in Chicago in a certain way, and not all the people are created in Chicago and Illinois. Is there politics behind this because of who the developer was, and he used to be the mayor of the town of Weaverville? Because that happened all the time in Chicago, so as a former Chicagoan, I got asked that question.
Thank goodness we're not in Chicago. I'm afraid I cannot pick up this name either. It looks like it's Larry, his last name starts with W.
Larry Scott.
That's a Larry Scott to me, but we'll take, did you sign up? We'll take it. You're farther down there, sorry.
Okay, thank
But
you.
go ahead.
I appreciate it. Thank you all for being here. Public service is more service, and the public part sometimes isn't pretty, but thank you. I live at 105 Monticello Road. I have 4 acres. We look out our window every night at that beautiful thing called CVS. I'm just a few hundred feet off of Ollie Weaver, and basically I look at the driveway for the Southern Concrete plant. Is the developer here tonight? I feel sorry for what they are. It's a noisy plant, probably 20 hours out of the day. Trucks are dumping, boom, 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 beep, beep, beeps. I hear it in my house. I wake up in the middle of the night, get a drink of water, beep, beep, beep. I hope they know that. It'll be hard to rent those apartments. But I would ask that you, I'm not a citizen of the town of Weaverville, but I'm just a few feet shy of the yellow line of Monticello is my property line. That's also, Weaverville. I need you to look out for me, even though I didn't get to vote you in. Look out for my neighbors. That's the goal of government, is to protect individuals and other folks in a bigger group. And we would come to you to ask for that. And sometimes it provides benefits to you financially, and sometimes it doesn't. If you guys don't approve this, this will be hard on the budget to some extent, because it'll be less money for taxes and less for the water. I think in the end that land will be developed somehow. If I had to throw a shot at it, I would say single-family homes would be a nice appearance down there. And they could do water and sewer like the rest of us out here have done, the well and septic program. Or they could hook up to MSD if they wanted to and pump it. I'm concerned about, just the general gist of how we're gonna, if we grow so fast, the water issues. I spent some time in California. I can understand water issues. They happen sometimes unexpectedly. They happen fast. We don't have big reservoirs here, but I ask tonight that you not vote for either the annexations. And I would ask also, just as a note, that if anything ever goes through with this, that it goes through Garrison Branch Road, because there won't be nearly the traffic bothering individuals and it going to 2570. I'm 3 mailboxes down from CVS. The traffic regularly from 2570 comes to my mailbox. I have to wait to get into my driveway. There's Bruce's house, there's Jack's house, and there's mine. And so I can speak to that issue. We already have about 700 new units, which will bring about 1,500 new people. There will be water and sewer issues, I get that, but there's other pieces to it. So I do ask that you think more, instead of town wallet, with your purpose of government, is we need some development. Would you put that development right now across the street at the elementary school if that land was available? Would you put all 240 units right here on Main Street? Would you approve that? If you wouldn't approve it there, don't push it off to other folks when we need a balance. And I think single family homes would be good. And even if you annex them, it would be less of an impact, both water, sewer, and otherwise. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ron Carini, you signed up again? Okay. Tom Belt?
Hi, I'm Tom Bell, live at 53 Pine Street. A lot of what I was going to say has already been said. But I grew up, well, first of all, I want to reiterate, this is a tough job, and I appreciate all of y'all's service. So I grew up in Austin. Weaverville is not Austin. It never will be. But I remember as a child, everybody said, this place is popular, people are coming, we need a plan. That was never done, and Austin turned into a mess. It's still a very popular place. I got a daughter that lives there, but it's not a great place to live in, and it doesn't have a great quality of life. And, I'm for growth. My wife and I are a part of growth. We came here 4 years ago, almost accidentally, and we couldn't be more happy to be here at Weaverville. We're delighted. But I think what this community needs, and has already been alluded to by several previous speakers, is we need to pause and we need a long-term plan for this community. And it needs to be a carefully thought out plan that engages the entire community in a deliberate planning process. And it doesn't need to take that long, but it could take a year. And during that period of time, we need to pause on development like this, so we can all figure out together what direction we want to take in the future. I know Buncombe County has something like that. I'm new here, but they've got something like that ongoing right now. It's a 20-year plan. We don't need a 20-year plan, but we do need a plan, and we need a deliberate process to engage the entire community, not just these people here tonight, although this is great, but everybody. And then once we have that together, then we can proceed. But I think that should come first, and we need to just take a deep breath and wait a little bit and kind of adjust where we are now and where we need to go in the future. So thanks for the chance to speak.
Thank you. Anything, Hannah? Okay. Stan Cross, you signed up again?
Hello again, Stan Cross, 109 Holly Weaver Road. I appreciate that the process separates these two issues, because I think they are two issues, to annex or not to annex, and then the second question is for what. And I think tied to my earlier comments about the ever-evolving comprehensive land use plan and the need to understand what that plan aims to achieve, so much has changed so quickly that I think Weaverville can now begin to see what's coming in a way that it couldn't before. And one of the things that you all may consider is to look at this next iteration of the land use plan and start to consider where are likely annexation requests coming from. And what is the best use of that land for both the land itself, the residents that surround it, but also the town's budget and the town's growth plan. And get out ahead of this, instead of having to respond to a particular developer's particular vision about a very isolated thing in their mind, which is just that one development. That might help bring clarity and might help have these conversations in the future turn into ones that are more productive and predictable rather than reactionary. Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia Lux.
Thank you and good evening. I too am from Chicago. I moved here 8 years ago with my partner,
I live at 32 Hermitage Lane. And my property borders Weaver Road at the northernmost end of this development proposal. When my partner passed away 5 years ago, I became an Airbnb host in order to help me pay my mortgage. If this 244 unit development goes in, I will most likely lose my business. Because who would want to stay in a place where there's construction traffic going on every day, all day? And when I lose my business, I will lose my home. I sent a letter to the mayor and all the town council expressing this and got a reply from one member, and I won't name that person. But the council person said that whether this is annexed or not, the developer plans to go ahead with the project. And then added, and I might quote the exact words, "I just want you to be aware of the situation. Many people with a," and he put it in quotes, "Weaverville address assume that they live within the town limits, when actually they're in Buncombe County. And I wonder if I was being told, you don't live in the town, you don't have a voice." That's what it sounded like to me. But aside from the personal effects on me, losing my business, losing my home, and having to move, this was the place where my partner and I were going to live out the rest of our lives. But aside from all that, the zoning and with 3-bedroom units, where is the school studies on this? I've seen water studies, I've heard reports from police and fire. Where are the school studies? I'm a substitute teacher in several of the Buncombe County schools, and I'm already seeing it. I've been there 3 days when new students have been brought into the classroom. I was subbing in. What kind of pressure are we going to keep putting on our teachers when they're struggling enough to educate those little ones in front of them, or big ones? I just ask that the town council put a moratorium on decisions on what's going to happen with this property, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your thoughtful comments. We really appreciate them. I just want to point out that the people you see in front of you all live in the town of Weaverville as well. And we all too feel that the growth and development is coming fast and furious to Weaverville, and it is. And just to point out what Mr. Scott was saying, it's not going to east for us in North Buncombe County, I'm afraid. It's anticipated that 20,000 new housing units will be built in Buncombe County in the next decade. As Mr. Scott pointed out, they're not happening in South Buncombe County. So I'm just saying that this kind of development is coming to us, is going to continue to come to us for some time. Unfortunately, we all wish we could keep Weaverville as the charming, quaint town it is, and hopefully we can do that, but people are moving here like crazy. So thank you for recognizing that we too are Weavervillians, and we too feel the same exact feeling that you all have about what's happening to Weaverville. Thank you again. Town manager, would you go through the consent agenda, please?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, wait a minute, I forgot to close. If there's no more comments, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing on zoning for all renewable project. Is there a second? Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The public hearing is closed. On track there. Town manager Coffey, would you go through the consent agenda items, please?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. Beginning on page 46, you have the consent agenda. This starts off with January 18, regular workshop minutes, January 24, regular meeting minutes, and then February 15th, workshop minutes. Following that, beginning on page 53, you will find your monthly tax report. Total current year collections are at 3.6 million. We're at 97.22% collected. On page 58, beginning on page 58, you will find a budget amendment. This is a budget amendment adding $188.77 to the budget. This is for ABC. This is ABC revenues and also contributions to the fire department. Go into the fire department as well as the police department. On page 60, you will find 60 and 61. You will find a draft proclamation honoring Black History Month for February, and page 62, you will find a proclamation recognizing March as American Red Cross Month. And I believe Mr. Craig Weeks will speak to this for just a quick second.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Mariana Hundella, and I am the Executive Director for the Western North Carolina chapter of the American Red Cross. And we are very appreciative of this recognition for the Red Cross. I'll be very brief and considering time. The American Red Cross has been designated as March. When this happened was in 1943, when President Delano Roosevelt decided to write out a proclamation in which he declared the Red Cross as March being rededicated to the people that serve and the aims and the activities of the Red Cross. And since then, every president of the U.S. has done the same thing. So we appreciate this opportunity. Red Cross volunteers here in Western North Carolina, in our communities, day-to-day serve in times of disasters and also to alleviate suffering. And just to mention a few examples, really briefly, this past fiscal year, the American Red Cross with our volunteers here in the community have responded to 195 local disasters and helped 220 families. We have collected over 24,000 units of blood for patients needing life-saving transfusions. We have also had 320 volunteers dedicating over 19,000 hours of volunteer service in our community here. We've installed 271 smoke alarms to help save lives, and we've also provided 530 emergency services to military members, veterans, and their families. So we thank you very much for this proclamation, and we just want to express our gratitude to not only you, Mayor Fitzsimmons, but also to the Town Council of Weaverville, and we'd like to invite you all to please come to our April 5th blood drive that will be hosted here within your community at the Weaverville Community Center, and we have some team members from our blood services team here today. If you'd like to sign up, or you can also visit our website, redcrossblood.org, and you'll find all the shifts there. So thank you very much for this opportunity. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Continuing with the consent agenda, music on Main road closure ordinance is on page 64 of your agenda. This is, music on Main is scheduled for Saturday, June 18th. The road closure will be from 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. and at the intersection of Main Street and US 19, Merriman Avenue, as well as road closure at 30 South Main Street here in front of County Hall. And finally, on page 66, beginning page 66, you will find some recommended changes to the memorandum of understanding between the town and the Weaverville Tailgate Market. And on page 68, you will see those in yellow there, as well as page 69. These are primarily patio and parking issues that have been developed, and we have made some changes with the tailgate market to improve their situation and help them to grow the market with vendors. That is all for consent agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda for Town Manager? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. This agenda is approved. Manager Coffin, would you go through the town manager report as well?
Yes, sir. Beginning on page 71, actually only on page 71, you'll find the manager's report for February. Just want to report to you that we've been working with the Weaverville Business Association to come up with a St. Patrick's Day event. This is the first year that we'll be having this event, and so we're looking forward to it. It'll be Saturday, March 19th from 2 to 7, and this will involve a road closure of a portion of Florida Avenue and a portion of Merchants Alley. We invite everyone to attend the event. It's a street festival with music, food, beer, costume contest, and family-friendly activities. We have once again received the Tree City Award for the last year. And so I want to report that to you. We are planning a program for the end of April to recognize Tree City for 2022. Just a very brief update, and we can talk about this further when we get to discussion and action items E. Recreation complex update, just to let you know that we are working on those plans, some schematic drawings for you to bring back to you. Hopefully next month we'll be able to do that. Budget process and calendar, and if you'll refer to page 72, you will see a draft calendar for not necessarily for town council approval, but certainly approval of the dates that you see there. We have a workshop scheduled for Tuesday, April 19th. Then the initial budget presentation on Monday, April 25th, another budget workshop on Tuesday, May 17th, public hearing on Monday, May 23rd, and then you have another budget workshop for Tuesday, scheduled for Tuesday, June 21st. These are the regularly scheduled workshops and meetings. You obviously, you'll see a space there that reads potential budget workshop. You obviously can have as many budget workshops as you would like. You can have as many public hearings as you would like. You can have public input opportunities for folks for input on the budget. But these are the calendar events that we have scheduled for the budget process. What I propose to you is for the pre-budget workshop that on Tuesday, April 19th, that we have our department heads come before you, present to you some information about their structures, about their staffing, about just general budget issues, challenges, concerns, opportunities that they see in the upcoming fiscal year. But also that Tanya Dozier and I will present to you hopefully some very preliminary revenue estimates for the upcoming fiscal year based on what the information we have at that time. So that is the calendar for the upcoming budget process. Economic Development Advisory Committee, I believe Bill Barnett is in the audience.
I think he's on.
Is he on?
He's on. Phil Barnett is heading up our Economic Development Committee, and he is on Zoom. Phil?
Yes. Thank you, Council, for hosting us this evening. I wanted to let you know that our Economic Development Advisory Council has been successfully meeting, and now we've met twice. I wanted to also advise you that our recruiting of volunteers has been really successful. I'll quickly just step through who's joined us. Summer Green from Reams Creek Golf Club, Eric Hardy, who's notified us, by the way, that he's been called back to Woodfin Township to help with a project. So I think Eric's going to step out. We also have Jeff Honeycutt from Apex Pest Control, Jared Perkins from First Bank Court, Al Schlim from KL2 Connects, which is an executive search firm here in Weaverville, Alan Shepard, who I think most of you know at Allen's Jewelry, Reggie Tidwell from AIGA Graphics, Cindy Ward from our Weaverville Realty, Craig Weeks, who is a consultant now and is also the Reems Creek Homeowners Association president, Councilwoman Michelle Wood, and Terry Yeager, who is retired from the VA. So we have a great group of very dedicated folks who are very interested in economic development and looking forward. I will say we're in what I would describe as visioning or ideation mode right now. We're really just kicking around a lot of ideas and trying to pick a few concepts that we can test and develop and come back to you with some recommendations. We kicked off the committee January 26th, as I mentioned, and then we held our second meeting today. We do follow a mission which has 6 points. We're facilitating cooperation and engagement between the town and local businesses. We want to provide perspective and advice to the town council on economic development and related issues where we can. We want to coordinate with companies that are considering moving to the area and certainly, promote our town as appropriate and within the, the scope of a vision. We want to participate with Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Agency for Buncombe County. And number 5 is marketing our town to companies that may want or be attracted to our area and be sure that we're promoting Weaverville in the right frame that will be attractive to them. And then lastly, identify actions that we can take to enhance or support both our existing businesses and those that we wish to attract. I'll mention today, we spent the afternoon at the amazing community center going through some short-term actions, and this committee seems to be really motivated. Mayor and I presented the group actually with some homework, and we didn't have anyone step back. So I think that's also very encouraging. We are relying on certainly a great list of resources, including citizens and persons from the surrounding community, but also each of you and our town staff. The committee is open-eared to your recommendations and inputs. We're referencing the comprehensive land use plans, participating with the Buncombe 2043 comprehensive plan development. And then also, today we've got volunteers connecting with both the chamber and also our local Weaverville Business, Main Street Business Association. The homework assignment that I mentioned, we've got folks on the committee now actually putting their heads down in some research, looking at success stories from other towns. And, we're lucky that there are a lot of really great towns to look at that could actually, give us even more ideas than this committee has already come up with. But that's my update. I wanted to also just let you know, we have mapped our volunteers to each of these mission statements. So we've got, at least 2 folks on the committee that are on point with each of these objectives. And we'll be meeting monthly, I think is the plan. We'll try to avoid conflicts, certainly in the future. But also in terms of the guidance, I think this committee needs from the town council is, just advising us on what frequency and content and in terms of reporting that you want to hear from us. And also, just let us know how you want to measure this committee in terms of its success and utility to the town council.
Appreciate that. Are there any questions for the town manager regarding our town manager's report? Then we'll move on to general public comments, and Mr. Clerk, is there a separate sign sheet for public comment? Here for general public comments. We can talk about any issues that we're dealing with tonight. Doug Thoreau, you're triple here tonight, buddy.
Thank you again. Sorry you have to put up with me another time, but the first thing I would like to comment is for the people in the room and that I want them to be aware that on the first two issues that I came up here on, that was based off of my experience of 10 years on the planning and zoning board, in which I chaired 5 of those years. So I wasn't just talking from not knowing a few things about what was going on. Thank you. This time, I'm up here concerned as a citizen, which I was previously, but I have, first of all, I'll start it this way. Why is there a closed session in the middle of an open meeting like this? And it happens to be just before the discussion and action items. And there's no topic listed. Now, I know you can't go into detail, that I'm very aware of, but topics can be listed. There is no topic. That's very, very unusual to even have a meeting in that position. Now, I don't know if it's been done before, but I've been coming to council meetings for about 25 years. I don't remember it ever being done. It could have been, because I didn't attend every single meeting, but it is quite unusual to put a closed session right before you're going to have comments, when you're going to be taking action and whatnot. The other thing, in reading the closed meeting statutes, I mean, the A3 subdivision and the C subsection, I just feel warrants some additional explanation for us non-attorneys, because some of that's a little bit vague, the way it's written. And it just calls, after reading that, why this closed session was called in without a topic. Also, it was alluded to earlier this evening about some information that was not with different agendas and meetings held, that has to do with the resolution for the USD loan to the town for the water extension. I went back through all the archives, back through when this special meeting on December 21, 2018 was called, went prior to that, went after that. The resolution itself and a couple other documents cannot be found anywhere. Why? Why not? Doesn't have it in the minutes, but yet the thing was voted on in that special call meeting with just a simple quorum there. That's another thing, something that important. And in reading this resolution, there's a couple things, one in particular that really needs to be addressed. And I'm going to leave it at that, because I would like to have an explanation. I mean, I'm not an attorney. I don't claim to be, but this just doesn't look good at all in just reading it. I've read a lot of different contracts through the years and done a lot of different things. And the fact that the information wasn't with the minutes and with the agenda doesn't look good. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And Doug, the reason for the closed session is planning state is to consult the town attorney. There are several legal issues that we're dealing with tonight. We want to give council opportunity to consult with their attorney. Karen Campbell? Okay. Alice Aldrich? Kevin Udy?
Thank you. I'm speaking directly concerning the noise ordinance. Is this the right time to speak on this? Well, my name is Kevin Udy, and I live at 20 Alabama Avenue. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you, and thank you especially for the work that you do. It's not a job I would. I spoke several meetings ago and actually requested that the town council readdress the noise ordinance. And I am very pleased to see that you have. I do have some concerns about the noise ordinance as it's written, however. A lot of this does have to do with many of the things that have been brought up earlier today. Weaverville is growing, and we're in a position to decide how we want that to go. In addition to where people are living, the way we manage noise, and how it's done, and what our responses can be to it as part of that. I'm glad that you've been looking at the ordinance. In the new ordinance, or the changes, the proposed changes, it specifically mentioned about a balance between noises associated with commercial activities and residential areas. Specifically mentions that this amendment is in order to strengthen and clarify the provisions. And I think that these changes do definitely clarify the provisions, but I do not see any way in which they strengthen the town of Weaverville's position. It seems like they actually weaken the position, give the town less leeway, less authority to take care of noises. And I'm concerned for our community for that. You mentioned earlier this evening, Mayor Fitzsimmons, about the charming and quality of our town. And as I understand these ordinances, it says that there is absolutely no limitation on noise from commercial businesses except between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. In the past, it's been kind of a gray area, but these seem to have actually removed that and made it. I spoke up and was one of the citizens requesting this change because of the excessive noise coming from some of the businesses. But this seems to, speaking of a balance between the two, this definitely seems to have moved entirely in the favor of businesses and not residences. I agree with the ideas you put forward about the vibrant commercial districts and the positive economic impact. I want to emphasize that the reason we want a positive economic impact is not just for the economics of it, it's not just for the money, but it's so that we can provide a higher quality of life and the good of the residents. I believe that these rules, as stated, are only harmful to residents and helpful to businesses. I believe the businesses are here to serve the residents, both economically and with what they provide. The rules, in fact, even have the line, residents should understand and accept that some commercial activities, it's saying we should understand and accept things are going to be loud, can't do anything about that. Yes, I will. Yeah. It says nothing about commercial businesses understanding and accepting that when they are close to residential areas, that changes the situation as well. Thank you very much for hearing this out. I believe that for many of the same reasons, as this stands now, it is not time to approve it. That more needs to be discussed on this. I'd like to volunteer my services, and if anyone has any questions for me right now, I would love to help answer them. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Lauren Green. Jamie Neely.
Janie Neely, I live at 18 Alabama Avenue. Of course, I agree with everything Kevin said. Specifically, we simply want rules and regulations enforced. We're not trying to shut down any business. The new ordinance says that noises resulting from activities of a temporary duration permitted by law and for which a license, permit, or facility rental has been granted by the town would be allowed. Well, they can just go get permission to be noisy each time they want to do it. As it stood and again stands, an investigating officer will determine if the sound is a violation. And that hasn't happened in the past, and I don't have any hope for it happening in the future. There's nothing in here about how many decibels would be allowed. It talks about nighttime. It doesn't mention Saturday and Sunday afternoons. Sunday afternoon was more than once this past summer, so loud that our neighborhood was looking at each other saying, now what? We're gonna not only have nighttime noise, we're gonna have Sunday afternoon noise, and that noise was worse than the nighttime noise. Thank you.
Thank you. Jorge, Regina?
Hey everyone, my name is Jorge. I live in 259 North Main Street, right next to Tommy's. And I just want to bring the perspective of a person that just recently moved here, a 30-year-old, and my trouble trying to find housing. I am in favor of development. I'm in favor of growth. If you look at Salem right now, there's 2 properties for rental in all of Weaverville. If you look at rentals.com, there's 3 properties. For me, it was nearly impossible to find a place to live around here. With that said, I really love this community because I'm able to see mountains, farms, nature. People really appreciate the environment and the community. So what I really want to see is a plan. Right? I'm not entirely sure of what are the positive impacts of this development in our community. How is it gonna benefit us in terms of public transportation, in terms of the increase in traffic? How's that gonna really impact us? I think that's very clear, but I'm not very clear about the benefits. I do want to live here for many more years, but I want to have some sustainable development. All right? Thank you.
Thank you. Several people tonight have mentioned the need for a plan. I just want to point out that, in fact, 2 years ago, we went through a very extensive process and created a comprehensive land use plan. It's on our website now. We really encourage people to check it out. And that process also included a lot of public input. So thank you for that. Elizabeth Swain.
Right here, we'd like to speak to this one. I also would like to speak to the noise ordinance. I own the house at 19 Alabama Avenue. I'm directly behind the Weaver house. On the 2 evenings that noise was so unbearably loud in my house, I looked it up on the internet to see what was happening and saw a picture of it happening. You can look it up yourselves if you want to. And the amplifier was set right on the fence between our 2 properties. So I walked around, to see how it was in the commercial area of the district, and it wasn't nearly as loud. So, why can't residents of Alabama Avenue have the same kind of, consideration? Because we are people who live there, and we need to have Sunday afternoons and Saturday afternoons to be able to meet with our friends and have, quiet space in our backyard. This noise ordinance is written so that anything can happen before 10 p.m. They can be as loud as they want. Then what? And it can happen every day of the week, every day of the week. And in fact, the owner, when I talked to him about it, he said, well, just be happy that it's not happening every day of the week. So, you know, I feel helpless. I feel like the town of Weaverville isn't interested in helping us, and I'm concerned for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Lou Aguilera?
Harry Lane. I am a property owner, commercial owner, Main Street. And you're not going to stop the growth of development, but you can control it. I am a developer, but there's many different types of developers. I care about the commercial end. Weaverville, with its growth, you need more commercial. You need more professional, maybe a satellite hospital, and that's what I like to see. When you compare a 100-unit apartment house to residential, first of all, you've got to come up with a formula. And maybe the formula is 5% apartments compared to residential, or 8%. That's up to you. The big difference, you look at a 100 apartment complex, so maybe it's 30 to 40,000 per unit, probably 30,000 per unit. Let's say it's probably a 2-bedroom. Okay, maybe 1,500 square feet. That's about the size of a small home. What's the difference? 30,000, 300,000. The city of Weaverville, or the town of Weaverville, should be getting 10 times more than the apartment. You need it for fire, police, public works. And that's why you've got to stay in front of this. What this council deals with today, compared to what it dealt with 10 years ago, is like night and day. And it's hard to keep up with it. And I know you listen to a lot of complaints, and I'm sure you'd rather listen to people who are willing to make the effort to help you. So let's control it. You're not ready for this decision. You have a lot of homework to do. And it's not easy. It's easy to sit out there where I'm sitting, but you all make the difference. And thank you for what you do.
Thank you very much. And last is James Hyman.
Thank you, James Hyman, 120 Sam's Road, Weaverville, outside of town limits. Before I get started, real quick, I had a question. So when you go into closed section and you come back out, if you do motion to vote, are you going to ask for public comment before you take a vote?
No, we've had public hearings and public comment now, so not anticipated on that yet.
Okay, thank you. All right then. So one thing I wanted to clarify, the comment that floated out there that if Weaverville does not annex this property, the builders said they will go ahead with it anyways. That isn't completely accurate. I think that needs to go with an asterisk that says, if the town of Weaverville decides to provide them with water, they can go with it. So you still hold the decision. I do assume this closed session is regarding the legal questions that have been raised on multiple occasions about whether the town has a legal obligation to supply water to an entity outside of town limits, and if this exposes the town to litigation. For the public's information, this has been a reason identified for why maybe have pressure to approve this annexation. So firstly, I would hope that Mr. Reese Lasher, owner of the applying company Weaver Vegas LLC, being a former mayor of Weaverville and an established and positive community member, would respect the heavily opposed voice of the community and not pursue legal action if in fact this request was denied. I did email him with a courtesy that I was going to make that statement. Secondly, I hope that council recognizes that a much more robust evaluation of the circumstances and additional legal consultation should be had prior to a vote, as I suspect this would change the minds of several council members who would rather follow the wishes of their community members rather than feel pressured into making the decision today. I would like to present the following. December 21st, 2018, in a special call meeting, Town Council discussed the USDA loan for the water line extension project. Mr. Throw also found that document. In it, Pam Kaisong clarified that this doesn't mean the town has to take in big subdivisions. It simply means that in normal business, if the applicant meets all rules and regulations, then they can't be denied on discrimination. Town Manager Selena Coffey commented that this is more of an equal opportunity position, and council will still have the ability to decide on water allocations. So I have questions, and I asked these before, and I know council members have asked of Attorney Jackson, and I'm not sure, and you guys talk about this in your closed session, but I don't know that you've been given a direct answer to this obligation if it's a yes or no legally. If not, maybe you should consider hiring an attorney that specializes in this as additional consultation. Has USDA been consulted on this and made any comment? Based on what I read, USDA was referring to affirmative action considerations. It appears to be permissible to deny water. And if you haven't, shouldn't you contact USDA and have the discussion on concurrence prior to deciding? And has the town of Weaverville been in communication and collaboration with Buncombe County? As one of the things that has been said is that Buncombe County's rules are a lot less stringent, although someone stated earlier that may not be true.
Jimmy, can I should wrap up your statements?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you all again. At this time, we are going to have hopefully a short closed session, and we're going to be back afterwards. Do I have a motion for a member of council to enter into closed session?
Mr. Mayor, I can provide that motion for you if you'd like. Motion would be appropriate at this point to enter closed session under North Carolina General Statute, Section 143-318.11A3, in order to consult with an attorney retained or employed by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, which is hereby acknowledged, and to give and consider instructions to an attorney concerning the handling or settlement of a claim or judicial action.
Do I have a motion to enter the closed session?
So make a motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed. I'm opposed.
Yeah. So we'll
Thank you,
go
Jennifer.
into the conference room for a short closed session and be back soon. So bathroom break for everyone.
Don't say anything. Yes, ma'am.